Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum to keep up to date with the community debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, or while they're premiering I should say. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below this video. Now I've just recently released a upload schedule for Nathan Oakley and Nathan Oakley 1980 channels. So if you are subscribed to both Nathan Oakley and Nathan Oakley 1980, then you will get a live show every day at 2 p.m. UK time. So in essence, Monday to Thursday I run a live show on Nathan Oakley 1980, and then on Thursday afternoon I run a second live show on Nathan Oakley channel. Then on Friday I run two live shows on the second channel, Nathan Oakley. Now the Thursday and two Friday shows then get played with the pre-show and the after show on the main Nathan Oakley 1980 channel on Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 10 p.m. So again, if you're subscribed to both Nathan Oakley and Nathan Oakley 1980, then at 10 p.m. UK time daily, there is an after show. So the pre-show, which is the bit you're watching now, this would be broadcast on Nathan Oakley channel. So obviously you're already subscribed to the second channel if you're hearing this, but ultimately speaking, there will be a pre-show followed by the debate, which went out earlier that day or whenever it went out live, if it's the Thursday or Friday show, at 10 p.m. So you'll get to see the repeat, if you like, of the live show from earlier that day, together with new material in the form of the pre-show and the after show. Now, I wanted to do that little preamble before anybody got into the hangout, which means that this may serve as a bit of an old school pre-show in the respect that while I'm setting up for the live debate, there is actually going to be maybe a bit of dead air. So unfortunately, that's going to be my apologies. But on the other hand, there is the small opportunity, or chance I should say, that there's going to be somebody joining with some relevant information to discuss before the show goes live. So hopefully there'll not be too much dead air. We've got about 10 minutes to go before the live show starts. So at the very worst case scenario, there'll be 10 minutes of dead air, but hopefully not. It'll be filled by somebody with some decent conversation. I suppose it could be an opportunity for me to do some shout outs. So a massive shout out to all the people who've joined me recently on Patreon. I'm really, really grateful to you. It's been an absolute delight to have a little bit of extra income coming in on a month by month basis that's a bit more maybe dependable than the very sporadic YouTube income, especially in the last couple of months where it's been cut off completely due to bogus copyright strikes. Well, now in the last couple of weeks, or maybe a little bit longer, that's been put behind me, and hopefully going forward over the next few months that will resolve itself and there'll be a bit more of a steady income for me from YouTube itself. But for the time being, the Patreons have been so appreciated and well received. So very, very warm welcome to anybody who's recently joined me on Patreon, and a massive thank you to all of you who are currently subscribed, or whatever the word may be, for being a patron on Patreon. So thank you very much to all of you. Who else can I shout out? Massive shout out to all of the people on Ballbusters. So it's been a sort of rocky start to a show that's been there basically only to replace Globebusters in its absence. So I said in the chat, I don't know if it's yesterday or today, that show might die completely if indeed Globebusters return at their usual time, as the purpose of that show is not to replace Globebusters, it is to replace Globebusters, not to compete, that's the right word, with Globebusters. So if, for the sake of argument, Bob comes back, which I hope he does, then that show has no purpose being at that time slot, as there's already a very good show to be on Sunday. However, in the absence of Globebusters, that's precisely the purpose of that show, so that's the reason why it's there, and hopefully the need for a Ballbuster show is negated by the return of Globebusters. So I just want to clear that up for anybody who's thinking that I'm actually wishfully thinking, as it was phrased by, I think it was Dabbin Good, that Globebusters does not return, when that's quite the contrary to my intentions. So yes, it has temporarily replaced Globebusters, but only because of the absence of Globebusters. So it's not that I want to replace them and wouldn't compete with them if they were to return tomorrow. So just want to make that absolutely clear. Anything else I need to shout out or clear clear up? I don't think so. I think that's probably my opportunity to hand over to the empty panel. So unfortunately, you're going to enjoy the dulcet tones of nobody if you're on the Nathan Oakley channel. Great advert for this second channel. But you never know, there might be somebody joining in the interim. Should I leave my mic open so you can hear the cheery sounds of joyful children? Maybe not. Well, there's nothing else to listen to, is there? I suppose it saves me the bother while I'm making a cup of coffee of actually coming in and unmuting. And while there's nothing else, you can hear what I deal with as background noise. Why not? Anyway, I'll leave you to it for the time being. Actually, there's only 5 minutes before the live show. I'm sure someone will turn up in the very near future. Alright, off we go. Hey, Sleeping Warrior.
Hold on 1 sec. Just give me a sec, Nathan. I'll be with you shortly.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, Travis.
Hello.
Going.
Good.
Hey, Travis.
What's going on, Anthony?
Not a lot, dude. Has there been a reaction from Bob or anybody on their side yet?
Nah, I don't have my finger on that pulse.
Not seen you for a while, Travis. Have you been missing from the Hangouts or what?
No, I was in yesterday.
Oh, I couldn't make yesterday. Busy.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been. I think I've been out a couple times trying to shoot some stuff over the Chesapeake. So when I'm out there, it's bad coverage. And that's usually when the show's on.
Morning.
Hey, Flat Earth.
Hi.
Nobody mentioned the word Christian. What are you doing here? No, hang on. Evolution. What are you doing here?
Yes.
We normally need a trigger word before
Nobody
we see
mentioned
you.
God. What's Flat Earth doing here?
Yeah, no one's triggered him.
I could just feel it. I could feel it was coming.
There might be somebody joining today. I don't know what his handle is going to be, but his name is Steve. He's been wanting to try to join the show, so I just sent him a text saying that we're going to be going on, so he might join.
Is the flat Earth or ball Earth?
Flat.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum to keep up to date with the community debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, though, if you'd like to join the discussion right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by The Plain Truth, Sleeping Warrior, and Flatten Earth. How are you all doing?
Hello. What ho?
Singularity.
Hello. What ho?
So, what have I missed?
Nothing at all.
Hello.
Any signs of curvature?
No.
Signs of axial rotation? Hey, Arwin.
Hello.
Hello.
Nope.
What axis?
Area Pete.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
Gravity? Scientific evidence thereof, Travis?
No.
Aberration.
What about evidence of a gas pressure without a container?
Nope.
No? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
None of that. I think the
Wow.
sun is a physical object, really.
Shout out to Colin Turner for the super chat. Great show last night. Thank you very much indeed, Colin. Sorry, Owen, distance to the sun, did you say?
Yeah. I don't think there is a sun, really. It's just an apparition we see at the epicenter of where daylight seems to be coming from in relation to our position on the Earth.
Okay, there is definitely a sun. It's that big ball of light in the sky, Owen.
Is it a ball?
It looks like a ball.
Well, it seems more like disk or like a cross
Hey,
section of a
conspiracy
ray.
critic, how you doing? Can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Good to have you.
Oh, cool, thank you.
Any evidence that you can have a gas pressure without a container?
Nope.
Wow, keen panel.
That would be a no. That would be a no. 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 No.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? And hello to Paul and UK Truth.
Hello, sir.
Never seen it. Paintings and CGI renderings these days.
Hey, UK Truth.
Hi, Nathan.
Good to have you. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius, last but not least?
No. Everybody together
It's
now.
in math.
No.
It exists in math.
Well, that concludes the most lethargic housekeeping ever. Thank you very much for taking part.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
So what's happening?
We were doing a very lethargic housekeeping. You know, it's demonstrating to the people out watching this, probably a couple of hundred people or whatever the hell are watching right at this very moment, that the Earth is obviously and observably flat, and that all of the things we've ever been told about the world we live in are complete lies. But clearly that's lost its lustre for many of the panel members. Hello,
Yeah,
Chocolate.
it's still flat.
Hey, Chocolate. Shout out to level 1.
Good morning.
For the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Wow, $20. Thank you very much.
Morning, everybody. You hear me?
We hear you loud and clear, Chocolate. Good to have you. Hopefully you can bring some level of enthusiasm to the panel. We shall see.
Did I miss housekeeping?
You did. You missed housekeeping, I'm afraid. Was there something you had particularly to present?
No, and no.
Well, that was better than the panel did. Thank you.
No problem.
I think Anthony's probably on a phone call and he tends to lead the housekeeping answers. So once he's back off his phone call, he'll probably pipe up. We shall see.
I did watch a video from how Earth's atmosphere, or actually from Respect Your Intelligence, that goes through how the atmosphere stays in the vacuum of space. It was kind of funny because I thought he just explained it but did show no evidence, which is the standard rhetoric that we hear all the time. It's kind of funny.
No.
Yeah, the bottom line is it's always an open system, which defies the second law of thermodynamics. So it doesn't really matter. I know this may not be directly linked to them pushing the atmosphere out and changing the Tor values between us and the moon, but ultimately speaking, it makes no difference. It's still an open system in a vacuum, so it's never gonna not defy the second law of thermodynamics. Unfortunately, for the globeheads who believe in the vacuum of space. Hey, Earth Truth, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Very well indeed. Is that a full panel already? Wow, that didn't take long.
I actually wanted to jump in and ask some questions about the vacuum and atmosphere pressure thing, if you wouldn't mind answering them.
Sorry, who was just talking?
I think it was
Earth
Paul.
Truth.
Yeah.
Earth Truth. Just ask a question, bro.
Okay. Obviously, like your question about the second law of thermodynamics violation thing. Obviously, when you word it that way, we can't have a pressure next to a vacuum, but we see a pressure gradient. So would that not suggest that there may not have to be a second law of thermodynamics violation? If
No.
the gradient goes to nothing and nothing is beside nothing, then there would be no second law thermodynamics violation.
But that in and of itself is the globe-tard religious belief that the pressure gradient dissipates to nothing. So you're saying, if my fundy belief is true, does that make my fundy belief true? Well, no, because a gas pressure gradient doesn't suddenly stop being pressure. What is pressure? Well, it's the force over an area. So if it's got no area to press on, then it stops pressing and disperses into the vacuum.
Well, we see the pressure drop over the course of 100,000 feet from like 101.3 to about 1. I mean, is it not safe to assume that it's possible that it may continue to gradiently decrease to almost nothing, which is what space is supposed to be?
No, space is 10 to the minus 17 torr. It's a vastly lower pressure at some stage. And at some stage, that pressure is next to the vacuum. Is it reasonable to assume there is a second law of thermodynamics violation in the sky? No.
Well, that shut that one up.
Well, I'm just confused because, like I said, we see as high as like a high altitude balloon up to 100,000 feet. Like we see it drop to 1, and I realize that the quote vacuum of space is supposed to be much less atmosphere than that even. But to me, if we could see a gradient that drastic over 100,000 feet, then I could totally accept the idea of it continuing to nothing, because the vacuum of space isn't a vacuum as in it sucks on things. It's simply nothing, right? And so I could see how the gradient could go all the way to nothing.
Well, that's the second law of thermodynamics violation. So while you can have a fundy belief about that, it's not possible.
Yeah, but we're believing that the density and buoyancy is the reason why we have that gradient. So now we've got an external force, for lack of a better term, of this density and buoyancy breaking the second law of thermodynamics. So we have an excuse for it, do we not?
Hi, Resistance Gold. How you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Very well indeed. Yeah, we're just going around in circles. So the gradient is a pressure gradient, and without something to press on, it would disperse into the lower pressure system, i.e. the lower pressure of space, as per the second law of thermodynamics. To suggest that you believe it doesn't do that is to say you believe in a second law of thermodynamics violation in the sky. Not reasonable. But you can, if you choose to, believe that nonsense, that violation of a natural law when you look at the sky. Me, I just say no. I don't believe that there's a second law of thermodynamics violation occurring in front of my eyes right now.
Can I speak on that?
Well, the 10 to the minus 17 torr thing is still a very slight cubic hair above zero. So, I mean, the space isn't a negative pressure, right? It's just really close to nothing.
It's not the scale, it's the differential between the two values. What you're describing is like you're minimizing what you perceive as the scale and therefore saying that that's a small difference. But when you look at it within the scale, you can see that a tanker will implode at a fraction of the vacuum of space as we're told it is. Yet we seem to have a vacuum of space above us that doesn't suck off the pressure from the gas pressure that we're breathing. So I know the vacuum doesn't specifically suck, but what my point is that the pressure of the air should be immediately exploding into space. Something is holding in the explosion of the pressure, and we have no evidence to support anything that's doing that.
Can I speak on this?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys reject the concept of gravity or no?
Well,
There's
can
no
you
sci-
prove the concept of gravity?
Sorry, there's no scientific evidence of gravity whatsoever. So do you have anything to back the assertion that there is this magical force?
No magic, just scientific evidence.
Go on, what is it?
Sorry, what's your scientific evidence for gravity?
Okay. So gravity is demonstrated by the fact that larger bodies of objects have more of an attractive force to each other proportional to their size and distance.
No,
so
that's not the
hold on.
science.
Just let me get to the end, Anthony.
Hey, guys, you gotta let the person speak. So the evidence is demonstrated by the fact that you can measure it with larger celestial objects in the sky. You can measure it based upon the density and the content of a massive object. So you can call something dense, however, that object may not have the mass that goes along with that density. So for instance, you can say that, let's see, a large object made of iron, right? You may consider that to be more dense or less dense than a large object made of carbon. But the atoms in an iron object that's very large is going to have more of an attractive force to another object of the same size. I'm sorry, another object than an object made of carbon would have to that other object, which is the same object. So I'm trying not to make things too confusing. So when we see the demonstrated evidence, we see celestial bodies orbiting each other, and we're able to measure the size, the distance, the speed, and the rate of change of the speed of those objects by measuring them over time. The fact that this is so consistent and so accurate, and it has been this way for 400 years of measuring, that is the evidence, and that is a standard of evidence that we can't dispute. So when you say that there's no evidence, or you say that can you prove it, the measure of what you even call evidence becomes a little questionable. You're saying, hey, where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? Well, what is it that constitute evidence if those observable, consistent, and accurate measurements over such a long period of time isn't sufficient?
Sorry, can you just summarize what your evidence is again? Because you said at the start that this was scientific evidence.
Right. So repeated, observable, accurate, and repeated, observable, accurate, and measurable, observations. I'm sounding redundant here because it's kind of hard to get this point across. If you're able to show from optical observations of celestial bodies over hundreds of years of their motions in the sky, then you can see that if you don't want to call that gravity, whatever you want to call that.
Sorry, can you just stop telling me what I'm calling stuff and tell me what your actual scientific evidence is? Before you carry on, I've listened for about 2 or 3 minutes now. So, first of all, do you understand what scientific evidence is?
Yeah.
Tell me.
It is the observable and measurable way of relating the natural world in order to demonstrate whether or not there's consistency.
That's total nonsense.
So something is evident.
Sorry, stop talking. No.
Oh, wait. Don't be rude. Hold on.
No, I'm telling you to stop talking. You can choose to, or I can get annoyed with you. That is not scientific evidence. Don't talk over me. I'm correcting you.
Okay, well, don't be rude.
I'm telling you to stop talking. You don't have to like it.
Do it more politely.
Pretty please with sugar on top. Shut your mouth.
Okay, without the sarcasm.
Sugar, please. Whatever you like.
Without the sarcasm.
I'm going to eject you if you don't shut up this time.
Well, then you have to.
You got 3 seconds to shut up, then you get ejected. How does that sound?
It sounds pretty good to me. You're an asshole. Bye.
Bye-bye. So, that is not scientific evidence. Scientific evidence would be something that is adhered to the scientific method, as opposed to your observation and declaration. That's not scientific evidence. So, it seems pretty clear that you do not understand what science is, and it also seems clear that your basis of your belief in gravity is based on looking at lights in the sky.
Incorrect.
That's what you've just told us. Sorry, celestial bodies.
Let's read the definition. Let's read the
Sorry,
definition of
yeah,
scientific
you
evidence.
just started talking while I was in the middle of talking. So
Nope,
we've had
you
about
paused.
3 minutes. So is this your tactic? Is this your globehead tactic? To just
Incorrect.
talk continually? I've let you say your piece. I have listened and understood.
Yeah,
You look
yeah,
at now
you're
you're
a
talking again. So is this the point that you get ejected because you can't keep a civil
Yeah, yeah,
tongue?
yeah.
What's your problem?
The problem is that you change what I say around, and then you try to, I guess, declare what I mean by what I didn't even say.
I
If we
asked you
wanted to
specifically.
dispute what scientific evidence is, let's just read the definition. Anybody in the group disagree with that idea?
Well, yeah,
Go
because
ahead.
when we read the definition for some things, the definitions don't tend to get accepted. Like, for example, when we ask for the definition for how we have gas pressure without a container, the ballers don't accept the definition for gas pressure at that point because it says something about needs a container to create the force. So if we're going to accept definitions for you, it's only reasonable that you accept definitions back. And then when you finished your point, we'll come on to the gas pressure point for gravity, and you can explain it. So if you're prepared to accept definitions, I will.
Okay, so here's the thing about that. When you have a disagreement on a defined term, right? And your definition is simply going to be different than mine. Are we simply going to change definitions to accommodate other people's desired outcomes to say, oh, I want this to mean this? Or are we going to agree on an established term?
Sorry, have you got a citation or not?
Sorry,
Sorry,
I can't
look,
hear the other
have
guy.
you
He
got
was
a
actually very
citation
polite.
or not? You said, let's look at the definition. Are you going to give us a load of
I was
words
trying
on
to hear the other
first?
guy talk. He was actually making a good effort. Could you please be kind enough to just let him finish?
No, I'm asking you to put the citation up that you said.
Okay,
Let's look at the citation.
I can't process what you're doing because you're too rude. So the other person, I don't know his name, but he was actually being polite, and I wanted to hear him out.
Oh, really? Well, I just want to see the citation for what's not scientific evidence. Looking at lights in the sky.
I don't know. I mean, the way that you talk and the way that you come across, first of all, you don't really listen to what the other person says.
So you have declared that you look at celestial bodies in the sky, and then you started saying things like, if you want to call that gravity. So I have absolutely listened to your nonsense for about 3 minutes. Then I asked you to clarify your nonsense. Then I asked you to define what scientific evidence is. Now we've got a load of gish gallop and word salad. So are you going to actually define what you think scientific evidence is or not?
Okay. The other person was talking.
Bro, you're not going to school Nathan. Listen, you're not going to school him on etiquette, okay? So just cut the bullshit.
Well, his etiquette is
No, just stop talking about etiquette.
Seriously, man.
Just
Seriously.
stop talking about etiquette.
Just relax and try to have a
Agree
conversation.
on a definition.
Okay.
I've got a definition.
So
for
I'm
scientific
reading
evidence.
the
We can agree
definition
on
right
that.
here, scientific evidence. Do we want to proceed?
Right, resistance. I've given you the opportunity to read the definition you wanted to bring up. Now somebody else on the panel has taken the opportunity
someone
for
can
you.
bring up a
You're now
definition.
talking over me. So is this an etiquette problem you have? You've just started talking while I was talking. So I'll say it again, uninterrupted. Someone else on the panel has now taken the opportunity where you decided to give us word salad. So I will now hand the mic to Paul. You will be quiet.
Taking all day.
Okay.
Go ahead, Paul.
I pulled up the law dictionary, and this is what is scientific evidence. It is the testing of a hypothesis or theory that is objective in a controlled environment. Can we agree on that definition?
Definitely.
Okay. Now you can go on.
Perfect. So you have declared that this extrapolation of gravity comes from the celestial bodies you observe. I would like the hypothesis for that science. Please, resistance.
So repeat what you just said and try to do it with less intensity because I couldn't process everything you were saying.
Oh, no problem. Oh, resistance.
Can you do it without the sarcasm?
No,
Because,
it's okay. I'll do it however I choose, uninterrupted by a
10:23.
wanker.
Can we
That would
just
be
do it
you
normal?
interrupting me right now. So,
Can we just do it normal?
yeah, this is your tactic. It's sad. Do you want to just put yourself on mute, Paul?
It's either
Am I on mute?
aggressiveness
I'm sorry.
or sarcasm.
Sorry.
There's no normalness.
Normalcy.
Yeah. Yeah, you're doing the round.
So, as
What are you
just defined
talking
by
about, bro?
Paul, it would require a hypothesis. I would
Could you
like...
talk
Oh, there you go
normally?
again, asshole. Time for you to be ejected, is it? You just can't help yourself. This is your
Can't
only
talk
tactic.
normally. Your strange
No problem.
talk
It
not
seems
working.
clear, just for the audience's benefit, because it seems
No,
clear to
that's
me
over
and
the
everyone
top.
on the panel
That's over
that
the
this
top.
is a requirement for me to mute the guest, because what I'm saying is being continually talked over while I'm being accused of having poor etiquette. So rather than me getting flustered and frustrated with this asshole continually talking over me, I'm just going to quieten him down and say my piece. Now, if he doesn't hear my piece, that's his problem for not being able to shut up long enough to listen. It's been defined what scientific evidence is, Resistance. It would require a hypothesis. You have declared you have scientific evidence when looking at lights in the sky. Now I'd like the hypothesis, please.
Okay, so we're not looking at lights in the sky. So that's the first mistake that you made. Direct observation with telescopes show that what we're looking at are objects in the sky, not lights in the sky. That being the case, the hypothesis, which is really irrelevant because you're looking at the observable evidence.
Sorry, I'll just kick him out if he keeps doing this. He's just said it is scientific evidence. We've gone and defined scientific evidence. It says it needs a hypothesis. Now he's telling us that that's irrelevant. So we've defined terms of use, as you have suggested we should do, that we should all agree on terms. You agreed on these terms, and now you're telling us that these terms are irrelevant. What's your malfunction? Are you very disingenuous? I'm still talking. So I would like clarity on why you have just agreed. Is it time to kick him out? Let's take a vote.
I don't really care because obviously you're not going to listen to a reasonable and accurate opposing.
Dude, if
You're not being
here to have a
reasonable
real
nor
discussion,
accurate. You're just
why
making
are you here?
declarations and not backing it up.
After we just had this long conversation, then you're being pretty much hypocritical to the extreme.
Okay, Resistance, listen real quick. Did you agree to the definition Paul read?
I did.
Okay, wait, hold on. Paul, read that again, please. Are you there, Paul?
Yeah,
Just going off mute, switching screens. Hold on, Resistance, you weren't spoken to.
Hold on, just real quick. Okay, so you just said scientific evidence requires a hypothesis. Is that correct, Resistance?
That's part of it.
Okay, but then if it's
back.
hold on, if it's a part of it, where do you get off dismissing it completely because you said a hypothesis is irrelevant?
Paul, don't worry about muting Paul. Just let Paul just read out again.
That cannot be skipped, perhaps.
Hello.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Listen, Resistance. Hold on, Resistance. You said that the hypothesis is a part of it, but then in the other breath, you dismissed it completely as irrelevant. Where do
I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't dismiss it as irrelevant. I dismissed it as unnecessary because.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Hold on. Stop. Stop. Okay, can you differentiate for me, the difference between irrelevant and unnecessary?
Irrelevant is where something is not considered to have any influence over the outcome of something. So it's irrelevant as far as if I need to present a hypothesis into this conversation or not, or is it simply unnecessary? It's unnecessary. It's not that it's not relevant. Okay, it's just not necessary.
How is it not necessary if you're trying to bring in scientific evidence?
No, a hypothesis is a proposed explanation for a phenomenon.
No, it's not. It's not a proposed explanation. It's a scientific prediction. It has two sides, an alternative and a null. So you're not just predicting something. It's not an explanation for something. It is your presumed cause of an effect and also the null, the zero difference result. So you have to both invalidate the null and validate the alternative hypothesis for it to be a valid result. So it's not an explanation, it's a scientific prediction.
That I'm observing, that I would have to
just going to talk over my entire time.
So
I think it's time for you to go. You just
Resistance.
don't get to
For you
rumpus
to
me.
talk, Resistance.
Bye-bye.
Hear you.
Bye-bye. That's the end of Resistance. I'm sick of it. he just rumpuses, and he's just taking us down these nonsense paths of trying to dice up something that he's already agreed to in terms. So he's a disingenuous debater here to waste everyone's time. There's a gap on the panel for somebody who was actually genuine, that doesn't want to descend the entire process into farce by agreeing to terms and then completely hand-wave dismissing them 30 seconds later. So, no, goodbye.
Okay, I have no clue who that guy was, but that was ridiculous. I think I'm figuring out where my differences are with what you're saying. I was always under the impression that the definition of gas pressure was the force that it would exert on the sides of its container, but that a container wasn't always necessary as long as it had something to bounce off of.
Sorry, maybe you can show us that then.
my-
Maybe you can show us an example where you have... Let me guess the phraseology for this. No, I don't need to guess, do I?
So let's have his definition. Let's see where he gets that citation from.
Well,
You talking to me?
yeah.
I just want to say hello to our other guest before you do. Sorry, I've forgotten your name. Earth, what is it again?
Sorry. Hang on.
It's bipolar flat Earth. How's it going?
Sorry, the guy that was just speaking. Earth, what? What is your second part of your name? Earth, what?
It's Nathan.
Myself?
Nathan
New guy.
Gonzalez.
Earth
Nathan
Truth?
Gonzalez.
Oh God, can everyone just shut up? If I'm talking to you, you'll know because I'll say your name, like the guy I'm trying to establish who was just talking.
Earth Truth.
Earth Truth, my bad, Earth Truth. I'm just going to say hello to the new guest who's also called Nathan. How you doing, Nathan?
I'm good, thanks, brother.
You're a bit quiet, my friend. Can you just say a couple more words?
Yeah. I had a couple questions for you in particular.
Sure, no worries at all. As soon as Earth Truth's finished, so Earth Truth's hopefully going to give us a demonstration of gas pressure without a container, but we shall see.
All right. Cool.
Well, I'm just saying, it was my understanding that it was just the pressure that it would exert on the sides of the container, but it wasn't necessarily, like the container wasn't necessarily required. Because like I'm looking at things like barometric pressure sensors that we use to measure the atmospheric pressure, and how they're not measuring the pressure that's inside their sensor. You know what I mean? So I guess basically where I'm confused, and like I'm with you guys on the sense that the Earth is observably flat and motionless. What's confusing me with the space is fake idea is the sense that we do see a pressure gradient, that space is allegedly not a negative pressure but a near zero pressure. So if the gradient continued to near zero, then there wouldn't need to be an exchange, you know. And yeah, it appears that it violates the second law of thermodynamics. But if we're going to say the density and buoyancy is what's violating that law, then we have an answer as to how it could be possible.
Well, it's down for the person making the assertion to demonstrate that it is possible, rather than us try and figure out an argument from ignorance. So it's not for us to necessarily say, let's figure out a way we can prove the sky is a vacuum. Shout out to Red Pill Philosophy for the super chat, by the way. Thank you very much for your support. It's down for the person who's making the claim that the sky is a vacuum to prove that. And the necessary antecedent to have gas pressure for you to measure with a barometric pressure meter is a container. So without the container, there can be no pressure to measure.
I understand that. Maybe it was just the education system misleading me. Like everything that when it comes to barometric pressure, what they teach in school is that it's bouncing off the earth, right? So maybe that's where the problem is. And I understand that's the whole idea behind flat earth, is to point out the flaws in things like the education system and the mainstream media and the scientific community. I totally get that. So maybe that's just where my misunderstanding comes from.
Not at all. It's really hard to relinquish some of this stuff. I totally get it. You know, and the gradient is a straw man, because if you just say gradient and then give the argument, it can seem almost logical, but it's a gas pressure gradient, And without the container, there can be no pressure, to quote conspiracy cats. That's the necessary antecedent to have the gas pressure in the first instance. So if you're to assert that rather than something up in the sky containing the pressure, whatever the hell that may be, it's actually something that potentially the gas could disperse into, but you just have to accept that that's the case. Well, no, unfortunately, it is a second law of thermodynamics violation. It's violating a law of nature, because without the container, there can be no pressure. The assertion of gravity has no scientific validity to back it, and you can take it one step further when someone asserts gravity and just say, have it. Have both. Have Newtonian, Cavendish gravity and Einsteinian gravity at 100% full force and demonstrate gas pressure without a container. And they won't. It's not possible. It's a violation of the second law of thermodynamics, so no one's ever going to demonstrate that to you. It's just a belief. You look at the sky and go, yeah, vacuum. Yeah, the gas pressure just stays here because of this pseudoscience they call gravity. That's not very powerful, but apparently can defy the second law. No. It's just not an acceptable demonstration. It's not an answer. It's just a fundy belief in the sky vacuum.
Yeah, that brings us to the problem, though. The second law of thermodynamics would also state that in a container, the pressure would have to be equal. You couldn't have a gradient pressure.
Of course you could. We're in a dynamic system.
Yeah, you see it all the time on the weather channel when they say, "With this whole low pressure system moving in behind this high pressure system," or vice versa.
I mean, where do all the gases get produced? At the ground level? Well, that's where they're all being produced. So do you think that's where the highest concentration of gas is going to be? Well, yeah, that's where it's coming from. Well, is it coming from the middle? Maybe if you look at these buildings, are the gases being produced on the top of those buildings? If you want to call that the midpoint? No. No gas is being produced there. It's definitely coming from those trees, though, on the ground. And what do you think happens when you go further up, where nothing's producing any gases? Do you think they're going to get less? I would imagine so. And it's going to constantly, cycle. Because that's precisely what's happening. We have cycles. The carbon cycle. The hydrological cycle. Just to name a couple. So those things are continually in flux. A dynamic system. Does that change the necessary antecedent to have gas pressure being contained? No, of course it doesn't. We still absolutely require the necessary antecedent to have gas pressure in the first place. Shout out to Rebel Rob TV for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. So no, nothing changes. So if somebody says, how do we have a gas pressure gradient? It's like, well, where'd you get the gas pressure in the first instance? Because to have gas pressure, you need the antecedent of a container.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. We have a vacuum between sea level and 100,000 feet. I don't see why we couldn't have the same scenario from 100,000 feet to 250,000 feet. With less pressure. To me, it just seems like a possibility. That's all.
Grumbles and the Grumbles in the chat summed it up beautifully. Earth is a closed system. Right. Basically, that's the bottom line here. It's the open versus closed bit. So when they change the Tor values between us and the moon, it makes no difference. It's still an open system in the heliocentric world. Open world in a vacuum. Well, that's not possible. That's the bit that's not possible. The gradient bit's irrelevant. It's a straw man. It's moot. It's non sequitur.
Well, that's exactly why I feel and I believe that it may be possible on a flat Earth because we're a closed system. Second law of thermodynamics often applies to an isolated system, which we are supposedly not. So, I could see how there could be unexplainable, phenomena that may be unexplainable using the second law of thermodynamics.
Not only applicable to an isolated system, it's described using an isolated system. There are no isolated systems.
All right. Well, I think I got all the answers that you guys can give me, so I'll let you get back to your business. I appreciate the time.
That was the business. I'm very grateful for the conversation. Thank you very much indeed, Earth Truth. Best conversation I've had in a long time. Marvellous. Don't take offence to anybody on the panel. I didn't mean that as any offensive.
I'm going to bounce out and listen and make some room on your panel for someone new.
I think the other Nathan wanted to bring something up, so here's your chance.
Hey, how's it going? So I do observations over large bodies of water with a group of friends of mine. We live in California, and we've done. I did Salton Sea. I've done Monterey Bay. I don't know if you guys seen any of those videos. I've always made observations and not experiments. And having listened to the whole debacle with you and Bob and everybody else, I wanted to get your thoughts on a few things, because I'm going to be actually working with a gentleman named Spiros Mikolakis. He's a quantum physicist from Caltech, and he's interested in doing quote-unquote experiments. And I was wondering, Nathan, is there, like, in your mind, is there no experiment whatsoever that could possibly prove scientifically that Earth is flat, or is it kind of open, like something you haven't considered yet, or there's no at all whatsoever?
It's a good question. So the scientific method is only interested in cause and effect relationships. It's not interested in the shape of the Earth. Now that sounds like I'm reifying science. The methodology cannot be applied to the shape of the Earth. Why? Because you cannot vary and manipulate the cause of an effect. If you are to assert, as the globeheads absolutely do, that the cause of a boat being obscured from the bottom up as it goes towards the horizon is Earth curve, well then the question I ask you is, do you think it is possible to vary and manipulate that presumed cause of the effect? Is it possible to vary Earth curve? That's not rhetorical. Throw it open to anybody. Is it possible to vary and manipulate Earth's curvature as a presumed cause of any effect?
No.
No. But I think the only thing you could do is measure it. That's the problem. But I don't think it's possible.
So did you say measure? That sounds quite a lot like mathematics, though, doesn't it?
Yep, I said measure.
Right, so that would be mathematics. So then what I'm saying, other Nathan, is that the shape of the Earth falls outside of science.
And what that means, Nathan, is when someone says to you, the whole body of science proves that we live on a sphere, you can say back to that person, that can't be true, can it? Because we can't manipulate your independent variable, your presumed cause for the obstruction for a boat going over the horizon. So anybody that says that, make sure you correct them, because they're telling people false prophecy.
The other thing that I'd argue is many of the instances that we're presented with as being a legitimate phenomenon that we can then do an experiment with aren't actually phenomenon. So, for example, but not limited to, a boat going over the horizon. That's not a natural phenomenon. Not in the slightest. It's claimed to be. It's also applied to concrete nouns. So when we see a lighthouse in the distance, this is where science isn't required. So I've probably said this statement 1,000 times. The Earth is obviously and observably flat. So when we see something in the distance, not only do we not need declare it's a proof of flat Earth, because it's simply observing something we see in the distance in our our local vicinity. So if you can see a lighthouse 31 miles away in your local vicinity, you just see a lighthouse. There is nothing else to declare. I don't need to declare, for example, when I see my neighbour's house out of my window, that the Earth is obviously and observably flat, there's a house. I just say, there's a house. Now, if the house is a mile away, again, there is no necessity to declare the Earth is obviously and observably flat. I can see a house that's a mile away. I just say, house. And potentially could apply mathematics to it and say the distance, 1 mile. When I see a lighthouse, 31 miles away, I can just say lighthouse. And then potentially, if I want to, measure the distance to it. Lighthouse at 31 miles. That's the end of our non-explanation, because there's no explanation required. It's a concrete noun. You're just saying literally what you observe to be the bloody obvious in front of you. So there's no declaration required. It is the starting point. It's the axiom we all deal with. It's even declared by the bullshitting heliocentric priests. We observe the Earth to be flat. That's the starting point. So do we need to prove the observably bloody obvious? Well, I'm smiling because I know you don't need to prove that. The outrageous claim is that we live on a sphere. Well, they therefore need to defy the observably bloody obvious that the Earth is observably flat. With, and they claim this, science. So it is declared to us by the claimant, Globehead, Johnny Globehead, the Earth is a sphere, science says so. So therein lies where we come in. No, there's no declaration of this with science unless you have an actual hypothesis backed by experiment. Love the channel, keep up the great work, thank you very much. I'm sure I missed a super chat while I was ranting away. Thank you very much to Mohammed for the super chat. Nathan Keen, I can't read it at this distance, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mohammed, though. I can just about make out your name for the super chat. Really, really appreciate your support. Thank you very much. I'll stop monologuing because someone will just snip it out.
Okay, so I pretty much, okay, so I got that. Now, we can't manipulate the independent variable, which would be the curvature, water, whatever, like thereof. So as far as our observations go, we observe that the Earth is flat, and so as far as having observations go, do you think that they contribute to our can they contribute? Are they like? Some people tell me like, why are you doing observations? You know, people don't care, and I feel like it's like having a big stack of papers, you know, or like evidence. Do you consider them to at least be like evidence of the nature of it being flat, or supporting evidence? You know, like a corroborating witness.
Absolutely. So I've said this before. Obviously, it doesn't hold true if you're taking pictures inside your house of your family, but every single picture ever taken, obviously in this context, is a flat Earth proof. The Earth is obviously observably flat, and unless you apply a perspective hijacking curve calculator and assume your outcome, it is still observably flat. So do the photos of the observably flat nature of our reality help? Absolutely. Every single picture we use on the show, day in, day out. Shout out to flatearthchannel.com for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. So yeah, the photos are absolutely useful. The only time that they become dangerous is if they're asserted to be scientific evidence, or that somehow taking a picture of something becomes an experiment. That isn't useful. But the pictures of our beautifully and observably obviously flat Earth are definitely useful. So if it wasn't for Ranty and Anthony and the Plain Truth and various other people on the panel who have come with their observations of our flat plane, then we wouldn't have talking points to make that clear to those who think that a calculator makes it curved. So yes, they're very useful.
Hey, Nathan, I think it's something that I was just thinking about this from our discussion. I think something that we need, probably a good idea to do is determining different types of knowledge. I think some of this comes down to how do we know something? How do we know something to be true? And I think sometimes we're conflating scientific knowledge or scientific proof or evidence or knowledge over other types of knowledge. Like my experience of the world is a form of knowledge. Scientific knowledge is another form of knowledge. And maybe try at some point walking through that and kind of showing how we're sometimes conflating the two sometimes. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, I can do that in just a few sentences really easily. So if people can cast their minds back a couple of years to some of the American footage that was from Joshua Nowicki of the Chicago skyline, it's just a beautiful observation, very well framed, looks exceptionally nice, and it's declared by ballers, globe heads, people who believe they live on a spinning ball, to be a mirage. So you're not really seeing what you can see. So when I say the Earth is obviously and observably flat, it would mean that if I was stood next to Joshua and looking out across the bay at the Chicago skyline, I would turn to him and say, Chicago skyline. I might give a distance if it's on the little plaque next to me and I'd just trust what it said, but you know what I'm getting at. I'd just say, there's some buildings I can see, and I can see them. Now, there's no explanation required in that as a flat earther. I just open my eyes, look, and see. Now, if you're a globe head, suddenly that doesn't make any sense because you shouldn't see it. Why? Because there's a model telling you shouldn't see it. So suddenly that was the observably bloody obvious becomes a phenomenon. Why have we got this mirage? Let's start doing some science. But they don't. They just declare it. It's a mirage. Why? Because I say so. Yeah, but why is it? Why can't I just say it's there? Well, because the Earth's in the way. So the light is doing insert bullshit here.
That's a mostly when Greater Sapien and Bob the Science Guy did a review of my observation at Monterey Bay. They said, "Oh, it actually proves that the Earth is a globe," and that's what you guys call was it observe and declare, right?
Well, they may have run it through a curve calculator. I don't know the details of Greater Sapien and Bob the Science Guy's analytics when it comes to your observation. But ultimately speaking, there's going to be either what you just said, observe and declare, or running it through a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator that assumes Earth had a radius to begin with. In other words, it's always going to give you a spherical outcome when it ignores perspective.
Right. So, I mean, even with the curvature calculator, our observations are completely, they kill the metabolic calculator and the advanced curve calculator. Because we were 4 feet, we had an observation height of 4 feet, and they were 13.23 miles away, and our target was about 4 feet above sea level as well. So looking at 71 feet of quote unquote hidden target height on the big, big in the question curve calculator. And so even Bob manipulated the Earth curvature calculator, the refraction level. And even with manipulating the refraction level, he still couldn't get rid of all the hidden target height. And so I'm making a response video right now. And then I also noticed, actually, when you manipulate the refraction tab, like the levels of the refraction, in the calculations of refraction, it actually increases the R. It increases R from 3,959 to like 30,000 miles. So in increasing the refraction, like on the actual calculator, it's actually increasing the radius of the Earth to like 30, almost 40,000 miles. So
Yeah,
I mean,
flattening it out.
Bob's a piece of trash.
I mean, it sounds like you understand the problem at a fundamental level, which is to say that they've got an R value to begin with. So if it was my response, you know, it's gone past where I pull apart the numbers and got to the point where I literally bend them over and force R values into them, metaphorically speaking, of course. But yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? They have an R value already. Isn't that the thing they're trying to prove? Well, yes. That's why it's begging the question. Proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator, because it already assumes its outcome. So to say that they can reify their model and then tell you what you should or shouldn't see on a day is outrageous.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I totally get it. And I'm pretty sure I get the whole experimentation thing on a fundamental level too. I just wanted to pick your brain and find out if there's anything that you could possibly think of that would make an experiment. But yeah,
Might be about to round out the show on the channel.
Indeed I am. So if you're watching this on the Nathan Oakley channel, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. But if you're watching this on Nathan Oakley 1980, unfortunately this is where we bid you farewell. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com to keep up to date with the community debate. Massive shout out to all who hit the super chat. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
compelling than any other, because I do the line of sight observations over large bodies of water, and for me, I think those are pretty convincing. That's pretty convincing evidence. But I was wondering if there's anything, Nathan, that you think that you've wanted to see that hasn't been done, or that you've had thoughts on doing, because we are at the end of the year. At the end of this month, we're going to start planning with Spiros to do observations. So
quite literally anything. I just like seeing the pictures from around the world. So when Ranty goes out, what I've been saying to him recently is maybe focus a little bit more on the beautiful scenery around you, which is a terrible thing to say, really, because I understand that you're all just trying to gather really good flat earth data, and I understand it, I appreciate it, and I think it's fantastic. But that's what it is. It's just nice pictures. If you can make the pictures look nice, that would keep me really happy. That's all I want out of it. Because the bottom line is, it is obviously an observably flat, but we do still live in a beautiful place. So seeing pictures of that's glorious as far as I'm concerned. Maybe I don't know if you're there, Anthony. Maybe Anthony, who knows the realistic nature of the ballers who will contest the pictures, has got a bit more to give you than I have, because I'm quite blasé about it. Are you there, Anthony? Can you hear us? Sleeping warrior.
Is there going to be another show, Nathan?
All right, Nick. Yeah, I appreciate and thanks for answering the questions. Just started roboting real hard.
Well, I was hoping Sleeping Warrior would give you some really sage advice there, but he's obviously away from his mic at the moment.
I can jump in and just suggest what came to my mind, and that is all you can do is present observations. The minute you step into the experiment, you have to have a manipulatable variable. You have to have something that you are going to manipulate. So that's the issue in terms of stepping into the realm of experiment.
Because we all know you got to wiggle it, right?
Anthony. So let's just summarise. Basically, Nathan has asked what would be useful when going out and gathering observations for this purpose, for the debate on flat Earth. So my answer was rubbish, because I just said make it look pretty, which is what I say to Ranty. But you obviously, you know what happens when the question gets begged better than I, because I just brush it off with one stroke of the sword, whereas you will actually get into the begging the question that is done by the ballers, whether I like it or not. So you're far more applicable to give Nathan advice than me.
So the two things that they want to know always is observer height and the distance to the target. So prove your height. So basically the best way to do it in my experience is to do a 360 when you do your observation. So just before you do your observation, just pan the camera around, do a big 360, tell them where you are, and obviously get it as low as you can. Don't try and chop off waves, because there's something called perspective, and waves do obstruct the thing that you're looking at. I know ballers refuse to accept it, but it is true. So just do it just above the waves so that you're actually clearing the wave tops, and then just basically zoom in on your thing. But the most important thing really is to get a decent basis or a foundation for your camera to sit on. Because honest to God, you can feel the blood pumping in your fingers and it's affecting what you're looking at. So it's extremely sensitive. So get yourself like like a box or something that you can actually put your camera on. Some people get a tripod, but I find the tripods to be very, very flimsy because they've only got one point of contact, the little screw-in thread thing at the base. I find you're better off putting the whole base of the camera on something that's got like a bean bag or something that you've got cushioning effect too, because that gives you a nice, solid, steady, non-vibrating horizon that you can basically set yourself on, and it'll always stay there. It's just the nicest, most comfortable way of doing it. And basically, come back, upload your video, tell them where you were. If you can get GPS coordinates, they like it. If you can get date and time proof, they like it because they like looking at the tides. But basically, just the only thing we really need is the distance and the height. So prove your distance, prove your height, and then the ballers just come back with a load of bullshit. But you can predict what they're going to come back with. Just really, all we need is the height and the distance. So just try and prove your height the best that you can. Lower is better, in my experience. But as the temperature starts to rise, you get more of an obstruction at the horizon. So I find that you're better off doing it either before the sun goes up or once the sun's on its way down, and it's definitely not at midday. And then just see what you can see, and then try doing it at different times of the day to see what you can see. Some days you'll get more obstruction, other days you'll get less, but each time you get any obstruction, they'll call it curve. So it's a thankless task, to be honest with you. You'll never be able to persuade anybody because they'll just call it more bendy light, no matter how flat it is.
Pretty much.
Does that answer your question? Hello? Nathan?
I think Dan has a question. Want to ask something?
Yeah, Mike. Nathan, your phone is,
his connection's gone
whatever
duff.
you were on is roboting really hard.
Yeah, it's not working, this, Nathan.
Sorry, guys. Can
Dan,
you
you may as well get Dan on. Dan, what can we do for you?
Yeah, I've got some questions for Nathan. Not the rest of you. It's just Nathan himself.
Okay.
Is he here? Is he gone?
No, he's here. When you're ready.
Well, is he here though?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just leveling you up. Go ahead. Whatever you want.
Oh, right. Yeah. Why do you do this, Nathan?
Do what?
Money.
Why do you do these hangouts and things like that?
Why do I do hangouts? Why am I a YouTuber?
Yeah, what?
Is that what you're asking? Why am I a YouTuber?
Yeah, why? Why do you do this?
I absolutely love it.
Tell me why you do it.
I just did. I'll say it slower.
Hang on.
I'll
why
say it
is
slower.
the personal request so loaded?
Let me answer. Why am I a YouTuber? Because I absolutely love it.
That's the only reason you do this, not for money.
Well, yeah.
I love it too.
Because you do not believe what you say.
Sorry, it sounds like you're now telling me what I believe. Is that the case?
Yeah,
sorry, Dan. It sounds like you're now telling me what I believe. Why would you do that?
Because it's obvious you do not believe a thing you say.
Sorry, you're doing it again. You're telling me what I believe. Please don't do it a third time.
You do not believe.
All right,
I'll
kick you out then. Is that what you want? You want me to kick you out?
I have another question for you.
It was not a question.
I did ask a question.
I think you were smelling your own bullshit.
So did you hear my answer to your first question? So just
No, I asked the question. I said, "Why do you do this?"
Did you hear my answer to it?
He told you.
Oh, hold on, guys. Did you hear it? Did you? Hold on. Did you hear my answer to that question?
Yeah, it was bollocks.
So what was my answer?
That you absolutely love it. You do love it. You do love it because you make money for sitting doing nothing.
What do you mean sitting doing nothing? I'm talking to you. This isn't doing nothing.
Doing nothing. What do you
Sorry,
do? Nothing.
What are you talking about? I do something. This is doing something. It's not doing nothing. Are you an idiot?
What exactly are you doing? What exactly are you doing?
I'm running a YouTube channel. That's doing something. Why would you assert that it's doing nothing?
What reason are you running a YouTube channel?
Because I love it. I've already answered this twice.
Why is this any of your business?
Because he's scamming people out of money.
Questions.
No, he's not.
Yeah, I'm done with this conversation. Thank you very much for asking your very rude question.
I've got another question. Nathan.
I reckon you're about to get kicked, dickhead. What is your question?
Shut up, you fat fucking spastic.
Laters.
So, yeah, I'm gonna kick him here in a minute.
Nathan.
Are you serious? Are you serious, bro?
Okay.
This is what you came in here with?
Who is it?
I've got another question for Nathan.
I don't give a shit.
This is what you came in here with, bro? This is what you got.
And he's gone.
Come on, absolute knob jockey. I wonder which channel he's been sent in from.
I think he was trying to poison the well.
Without the show. I would be miserable without this show, so thank you, Nathan, for doing this. For
Facts.
Yeah. When Nathan didn't have his channel for that month, I was aimlessly wandering around the living room, slighting back housekeeping because I didn't have anything to do. It was horrendous. You don't have to come, dickhead. If you don't like it, piss off.
And I, honestly, if you don't want to give anything, you just don't give. You know, you can just listen.
You're scamming people out of money.
Yes.
I don't think like I hate hearing that shit. Nobody is forcing anybody to give Nathan any super chats. I've given Nathan super chats. Nobody's forced me to. I've chosen to on my own account. Just like everybody else. So this fucking people who come in here, get super chats, you're scamming. Are you serious? Oh God.
I think he is serious.
So Ranty.
Ridiculous.
Howdy.
Hey.
What up,
Hey.
I think the sad thing is, I mean, you're no matter what, you could do it for no money and you still get ridiculed. You could do it for money and get ridiculed. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's not relevant. No. So
you don't like the show. Don't watch the show. I mean, that's serious. It always comes down to me to why are people listening to things they can't stand? You don't like the subject, you don't like what we're doing. Why do you have it on? What sense does that make? I don't understand. Is there something about this topic that irks you that bad? Is there a sense of truth in it that can't allow you to just negate it and ignore it? You have to be here every day.
I find it really interesting that there are people on the internet that are on the ball side, or even on our side. Actually, it's probably on our side. I don't know what side he was on, but anyway, that actually think it's acceptable to like claim some kind of like crusade justification for demanding some element of one's personal life. In this instance, it was, why do you do what are you doing here and all that? Well, let's not forget the fact that A, you need a computer. B, it needs to be somewhat better than shit. C, it's expensive when you start buying something better than shit. D, you have to subscribe to services. E, you have to work out how this shit works. F, you have to work around stuff that's bad. It goes on and on and on. It isn't easy doing it, and it's monotony. It's boring. It's time consuming. It's frustrating. It's tiring. It is a job. So why would somebody want or think that he's entitled to even ask those questions and get an answer? I was surprised that Nathan even answered. I'd have just told him, what business is it of yours? And then let him answer. Because, of course, the answer is there is no business of his. He shouldn't even be asking.
But then when he answers it, he tells him, no, you're lying. I'm telling you what you believe. I mean, what the fuck?
And with that, I'll say a massive, huge, enormous thank you to everybody in the Nathan Oakley audience for tuning into this premiering pre-show and after-show. Be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. Check out the nathanoakley.com Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!